I moved into this apartment for two reasons. It was cheap and it was quiet. Experience should have taught me that those two words never belong together, especially in a city like this. But I was desperate. The building was old, the kind where the walls are thin but seem to hold on to secrets, and the floorboards creak like they were trying to tell you stories you didn't want to hear. For the first 2 nights, it was exactly what I'd hoped for. Silence. A deep, uninterrupted quiet that felt like a luxury. It was the 3rd night when things changed. I woke up suddenly. The clock on my nightstand glowed with the numbers 3:12 a.m. The room was pitch black, but something had pulled me from sleep. It wasn't a loud noise. It was a whisper. It was so faint, I almost convinced myself it was just the wind or the building settling. But it had a shape, a rhythm that wasn't natural. A small, formed breath, slipping under the gap of my bedroom door. It repeated a single, chilling phrase. "Don't open it." I froze, my heart pounding against my ribs. My dreams aren't like that. They're chaotic, nonsensical, but never so specific. So clear. The air in the room felt different, colder, especially near the door. I reached for my phone, instinctively wanting light, but the screen stayed black, as if the device itself was afraid to illuminate that side of the room. I laid there for what felt like hours, eyes locked on the dark space under the door, waiting for it to happen again. But there was only silence. The next day, I tried to rationalize it. Hypnagogic hallucination, stress, an overactive imagination fueled by a new, strange environment. But I couldn't shake the feeling of dread. That night, I decided to test my sanity. Before going to bed, I set my phone on the floor, propped it up against my dresser, and started an audio recording. I told myself that in the morning, I'd listen back and hear nothing but the hum of the old refrigerator and feel ridiculous. I slept fitfully, tossing and turning, but eventually fell into a deep sleep. When I woke up, sunlight was streaming through the window. I felt a wave of relief. It was just a bad dream. Then I remembered the recording. With a sense of nervous curiosity, I stopped the recording and scrolled through the timeline. For hours there was nothing, just static and the low drone of the apartment. Then I saw it, a small spike in the audio waveform, right around the 3:12 a.m. mark. I put my headphones on, turned up the volume, and pressed play. First, there was a faint scraping sound, like fingernails dragging lightly across wood. My blood ran cold. Then, the whisper. It was clearer this time, closer, as if the person, or thing, was right on the other side. But the words were different. This time it said, "He's coming." That was it for me. Rationality went out the window. That afternoon, I pushed my bed against the opposite wall, as far from the door as I could get it. I started sleeping with the lamp on my nightstand switched on, casting long, distorted shadows across the room. But the light didn't stop it. The whisper returned every night, always at 3:12 a.m. And it began to change. Some nights it was a low, raspy man's voice. Other nights it was a child's. And one night, it was my mother's. My mother has been gone for 6 years. Hearing her voice, so perfectly mimicked, whispering those cryptic warnings from under my door, was a violation I can't describe. It brought back a strange memory from my childhood. She used to have this rule. She'd say, "If you ever hear me call you from another room or knocking on your door, don't answer it. Never open a door if you hear me on the other side unless you're absolutely sure." I always thought she was just trying to teach me about stranger danger, a weird way of making me cautious. Now I wasn't so sure. The next night, driven by a morbid, terrifying curiosity, I decided I couldn't just lie in bed and wait. As the clock crept toward 3:12, I got out of bed, my feet silent on the cold floor. I crept toward the door, my body trembling. I held my breath and pressed my ear against the wood. At first, there was only silence, a deep, profound nothing. Then I heard it, breathing, slow, steady, right on the other side. And then, a new whisper. It was my own voice, my exact voice whispering back at me from the hallway. "Please, let me in." I stumbled backward, hitting the floor hard. A scream caught in my throat. I'd stopped sleeping after that. How could I? I spent my days in a haze of exhaustion and my nights in a state of hyper-vigilant terror. I stuffed a towel into the gap under the door, a desperate, flimsy attempt to block out whatever sound or presence was seeping through. But it only made things worse. The towel started moving. At night, I'd watch it, mesmerized and horrified, as it would gently rise and fall, as if something just on the other side were breathing against it. My desperation escalated. I needed to see. I needed proof. I took my phone again, but this time I set it to record video. I placed it on the floor, the camera lens aimed directly at the gap under the door. I sat on my bed, knees pulled to my chest, and watched the clock. 3:10. 3:11. At exactly 3:12, I saw it on the screen. Something slid into view from under the door. It was black, fluid, like smoke that had forgotten how to rise. It stretched across the floor, a tendril of pure darkness, curling toward the camera lens. Then, just as quickly as it appeared, it retreated back under the door. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. I had to watch it again. I played the footage back, advancing it frame by frame. Just before the black smoke appeared, something else materialized for a split second, a handprint. It was pressed flat against my side of the door, palm down, as if someone inside the room had been leaning against it. It wasn't my hand. That night, the whisper changed again. It was softer, more intimate. It was my mother's voice once more, but this time it wasn't a warning. It was a statement of fact, filled with a terrible, sorrowful finality. It whispered, "It's too late." Last night, something broke. I must have fallen asleep from sheer exhaustion, but it wasn't rest. I dreamed I was standing on the other side of that same door, in the dark hallway. In the dream, my lips were moving, forming words without sound. I was the one whispering. The wood of the door was warm against my fingertips. I could feel a presence on the other side, a faint pressure like an ear being pressed against the wood, listening. And in that moment, with a clarity that was more terrifying than any nightmare, I realized it wasn't me dreaming about what was behind the door. I was what was behind the door. I woke up with a jolt. I wasn't in my bed. I was on the floor, crumpled by the bedroom door. My hand was pressed flat against the wood, and I could feel a faint vibration in my throat. I was whispering the same phrase over and over, "Don't open it." The air in the room was heavy, thick and wet, like the inside of a lung. And then I heard it. From the hallway, from the other side, came another whisper. This one wasn't mine. It was a deep, broken, guttural voice, repeating the same words I'd heard on the recording. "He's coming." I scrambled away from the door, my eyes wide with terror. I looked at where my hand had been. It had left a mark on the pale wood. It wasn't a smudge or a shadow. The wood was darker, indented. My handprint was sinking into the door itself. Now, I don't try to sleep. I just sit here in the one chair I've dragged to the corner of the room, and I stare at the door. I wait for 3:12 a.m. I wait for the next whisper. I just don't know which side of the door it will come from, or which side I'll be on when it does. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you enjoyed this and want to hear more tales from the shadows, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps, and it lets me know you want more. Stay safe out there, and remember to check under your doors.